More information has been made public surrounding the Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt case. Tons of eyes have been paying very close attention to this case as there's a lot of questions lingering surrounding how much Kevin Franke knew about the status of his children that were in Ruby's care. Kevin Franke, through his attorney, has now come out to give more of a statement regarding how much he was aware of and his separation from Ruby. Recently, I talked about how two of Ruby's sisters had come out on their YouTube channels to talk about the situation. One sister, Bonnie, addressed Kevin, saying that if there was anyone who could have done something to help those children, it was him.
The one person that could have done something within his legal right was Kevin. We had zero contact with him. It was Kevin's job to check in on things, and he did not. So when I say that Ruby and Kevin and Jodi and connections have been destroying our lives offline for the last 3 years, that is exactly what they've been doing, causing turmoil within our family. We would talk in circles because nothing made sense.
The sisters, as well as the oldest Franke daughter, Sherry, have previously spoken out saying that they had tried their best to get the kids with Ruby help, but the police and CPS never did anything. The Salt Lake Tribune reported on Sherry's previous efforts to try and help her siblings, writing, "Police records indicate that 20-year-old Sherry Franke had called police to the family's Springville home at least once before, telling police she was concerned her siblings had been left at home alone for days." Ruby's neighbors had previously spoken to the press talking about seeing the children in Ruby's care just wandering the neighborhood and had noticed that she would seemingly be gone from their home for days at a time. They noted that it looked like the kids were not in school and would just be left at the home unattended, which matches with what Sherry seemed to have tried to call the police and tell them about. But as we know, help did not arrive to these children until much later, after experiencing a nightmare of events that led to Ruby and Jodi's arrest. And it's also unclear if Kevin knew about the fact that these kids were possibly home alone for days by themselves. Obviously, we know that Sherry knew and that the neighbors knew, but Kevin, it's unclear if he knew. Now, this past Monday, Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were supposed to have a bail hearing, but it ended up getting postponed as attorneys say there is still a large amount of discovery that needs to be reviewed. But despite the bail hearing not taking place, Ruby and Kevin were both in court Monday for a welfare case involving their children. Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom, but reporters were allowed. Kevin's attorney later started speaking to more reporters in regards to the current situation, saying that him and Kevin are working very hard to try and convince the state that he is an incredible father, feeling as though the children need to be in a family member's care, preferably Kevin's care. In regards to his separation with Ruby, this was addressed by his attorney. He stated that the two of them had been separated for about 14 months prior to Ruby's arrest. Apparently, the separation was not something that Kevin wanted, as he wanted to work on things as a family. But the separation was something that was set in place by not only Ruby, but Jodi as well. And there wasn't any paperwork involved in this. Nothing was written, nothing was formal. This was just something that the two of them had set, so they didn't get divorced or anything. They were just living separately. Now, something that I wish had been addressed was how the children were divided in this split, as Chad went to live with Kevin and the remaining 4 children were left in Ruby's care. How that decision came to be, it's not known to the public. Kevin's lawyers did eventually address the comments said by Ruby's sister Bonnie, who said that Kevin was the only one who could have done something. His lawyer responded saying, "I think she admits that she too was out of the loop and had not had any contact with the children herself. However, Kevin is more interested in reaching out to his children, family, and friends to heal the past trauma and events. Kevin is making an effort to rebuild and bridge these relationships rather than sling mud and point fingers. He is focused on doing what is best for his kids at this point, even if that means undergoing some introspection. None of that process, however, is going to be creating more distance between him and his family, including his extended family. He wishes Bonnie and her family well, as we all travel down this path of healing. Now, I will say that Bonnie and her sister Julie both said that they were not aware of how severe things really were, and that what happened inside Jodi Hildebrandt's home was not something that they knew about.
We are in complete shock still as to what she had done, because we had no idea of what was happening. Basically, I'm here to say that I had no idea what was happening.
They did know that things were not the best with the kids under Ruby's care, as did Sherry, and it's why there is record of her trying to contact the police. Kevin hasn't been reported having made any effort to make sure that his kids with Ruby were okay, and that's all that Bonnie was saying in her video. And now Kevin's lawyer is coming out to also touch on how much knowledge he had of the status of his children that were living with Ruby, and also we know now Jodi as well. Kevin's lawyer says that Kevin was absolutely shocked by the allegations against Ruby and Jodi, and said that he had not seen his children at all during his separation with Ruby. So in that 14 months, he had not seen any of the children that were in her care. His lawyer said that Ruby had assured Kevin that the kids were happy in his absence. And he said that he had never had a reason to believe that the children were being harmed, saying that nothing of the sorts had ever been a part of their family before. And if he had even one inkling that his children were being harmed and that this separation wasn't for any other purpose other than to figure out a way between him and Ruby to reunite their family, he would have been down there in 2 seconds. So it seems like with everything that has come out from Kevin's lawyers, he is denying knowing any information on what was occurring between Jodi and Ruby with how they were handling the children in Ruby's care. Kevin is claiming that all he wanted to do was bring their family together, work things out with Ruby, and he thought that the separation was helping in that process. It's also unclear if he's still part of Jodi's teachings in any way while he was away, as it sounds like he was hearing from Jodi and Ruby that this was the best thing for them, was to be separated, and it was helping their marriage in some way somehow. So I don't know if he was still believing Jodi. I know that his lawyer had said that Kevin did not want the separation, but obviously he did listen eventually since they were living apart. But it's unclear if while he was away, he was still listening to Jodi and the things that she was preaching, because at one point in time, he was very much a part of Connections, very much a part of believing in truth and living in those teachings. So it's unclear if while he was living away, if he was still practicing the things that Jodi was teaching or what. All the unknowns just seem to be one big horrifying thought, honestly, because Jodi's teachings are just so scary and so extreme, and it's truly just so unbelievable that people even listen to her in the first place. But now, as this case has gotten so many eyes on it, the judge is considering making this case private, preventing further coverage as they proceed, but doing so would limit Sherry Franke's access to the courthouse, as she probably wouldn't be allowed to attend any future hearings if the case were to go private. Sherry has been attending these hearings alongside her own attorney these last few weeks, and the judge has asked both her attorney and Kevin's attorney to submit briefs on whether the custody proceedings should remain public, as she is trying to consider the question from all angles before ruling. Right now, the case remains public, but we will see if that changes. The Children's Council, representing the Franke children that are underage, is the one requesting to restrict public access to the child custody proceedings, as it's such a sensitive case that has very sensitive information and everything has been published worldwide. So over the next couple of weeks, we will know if the decision has been made about the status of the case and if Sherry will be able to continue to attend these hearings. I definitely think that making it private is good. It's important to protect these kids, but having Sherry at these hearings, I just feel like that's kind of important. And you would think that she would be somewhat involved in the situation, at least enough to be in the room, but because she is an adult, the custody hearings don't really have to do with her because she is an individual, she is an adult, she's taking care of herself, but these meetings are about where her siblings are going to end up and whose care they are going to be in. So it's a complicated situation. But as of right now, that's what's come out in regards to this case, what Kevin's attorney has said on his behalf to the public, and what has happened in the court as of recent. I will let you guys know if anything further comes out. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.